how can you, one, capitalize on the location? Time zone. Perfect time zone. Excellent for ICT opportunities. ICT, I said to the Jamaican government, why is it? What would it be possible if I could bring 10,000 engineers, software engineers to Jamaica? Would you give us the facility, the immigration facility, to allow them to come in? Yes, because currently, I'm just goose skying here for a while. Currently, with respect to the ICT industry, Jamaica is at the bottom of the pyramid, just call centers. But why shouldn't a country like Jamaica be at the top of the pyramid, whereby we can provide outsourcing to engineering outsourcing, software engineering outsourcing, securities analyst outsourcing, legal outsourcing, accounting outsourcing? Why not? So yes, we are working diligently to go up the value chain. The conditions are there. So we should have Infosys-like companies in Jamaica, which we will. By virtue of its location, it's well suited. Other examples of untapped potential is medical tourism. Medical tourism. If you were anywhere from the region, Central America, South America, Caribbean, and you had, it's natural for us to automatically think, if I have an ailing family member, I'm going to Miami. Isn't that how we think naturally? But Miami is expensive for the average family. And also, when you have a family member ailing, you travel with a lot of people, right? You have to get visa, it's inconvenient. So why don't we build a medical tourist industry in Jamaica, which, by the way, will take advantage of the expensive healthcare system in the United States. And why should an American go to the Philippines to get their cataract surgery? Why should they come to Jamaica? They'd rather come to Jamaica anyway. So why not? Again, opportunities for those of us who are entrepreneurial enough to make the bold move. Other opportunities, currently, intergenerational transition from family-owned businesses to corporately owned businesses. That is happening right now. So there are opportunities there for investors. Governments, a lot of the Caribbean and Central American governments, they are in a position today whereby they have to be divesting assets for budgetary reasons. So there are opportunities because of the transition from government-owned businesses to corporately owned businesses, from the public sector to the private sector in terms of the privatization. So there are opportunities there. Opportunities emanate from the scaling up of existing businesses, because there's a dearth of equity capital. Some fantastic brand names in the Caribbean, but they don't have the capital to scale up and become internationalized. Opportunity. Infrastructure development. They're bound. Bringing operational efficiencies to existing businesses. Recalibrate standards, stretch aspirations, improve productivity, digitalization, provide best-of-class methodologies. These are all opportunities. Consolidation opportunities in many sectors. It's fragmented. When we got into the telecommunications business, in Jamaica there were 28 cable providers. Small country, like 28 cable providers. There are many industries that need to be consolidated. Opportunities. Education. This is a really big opportunities for college, to have more college and job-ready education. Huge opportunity for the Caribbean and for investors. Opportunity to flip the switch. You see, we from North America, and this is what gave us the confidence with Columbus, because we saw this, this broadband play movie in Canada, but it was not yet happening in the Caribbean. So we in effect, figuratively speaking, we had seen the movie before. So all we did was to go to the Caribbean and flip the switch to play. Opportunities to flip the switch to start the movie that we have seen already, we have all seen in North America. And lastly, so those are some of the reasons why any rational entrepreneur / investor should be enthused. Now, that's the good side. There's also issues that a rational entrepreneurial investor has to be aware of before jumping headfirst. And the first question an investor should ask is, would I be comfortable standing in front of a judge in that particular jurisdiction that I'm thinking of investing in? Would I be comfortable? That's the first question one should ask. In other words, am I comfortable with the rule of law? And am I confident in the justice system? And in the Caribbean, it's checkered. It's checkered. So, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I've experienced expropriation in the Caribbean. So it's for us to make sure that those of us who are in a position, multilaterals, governments, it is for us to do what we can to enable and facilitate business. And one of the essential retardants to doing business in any country is corruption and a rule of law that is non-existent and a court system that is manipulated. And as I said, we have it also in the Caribbean. So I tried here tonight to give you a balanced view. It's the experience that I've had. I've had the experience that with Radley Gamut, from starting companies that have turned out to, more than one, that have turned out to be multi-billion-dollar operations, to at the other extreme, to being expropriated. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I'd like to get your opinion and see if you might add number 4 to your list, which in the 10 years I've had the privilege to be around the Caribbean, I've noticed, and that is there also exists a wealth of indigenous resources that are underutilized.
Yes.
And given that the room really doesn't represent the group I'm thinking about, that was as your son left the room, we've shown year after year that government problem isn't going to be solved anytime soon.
What government problem?
Well, I quote I think it was the Minister of Martinique who once told me, my indigenous resources are renewables. I'm thinking about the people. And he said to me, Dave, you don't understand the problem. You're thinking about business that have 10 years life cycles. I'm in power for 4 years. I could maybe do stuff for 2 years. We never match.
Yes.
So as long as you've got governments turning over, your ability to have that confidence in that government to build those local businesses is diminished.
Yes.
My question to you for number 4, indigenous resources, is where I am stunned every time I go on island. I'm looking at 28 to 30-year-olds running around with their iPads.
Yes.
We looked at building things to include the older generation. When I realized that her granddaughter was 17 with an iPad was doing her energy survey for it. So with that broadband, and we're seeing more and more businesses not having to have a geographic location, do you see some unlocking of that wealth of resources of Caribbean folk that have this great intellectual capacity to jump on the worldwide net and build local businesses, but not being constrained by the governments, because these businesses are just flourishing without any government support whatsoever all over the world?
Well, as Ken, my introducer, said, I was asked by the Prime Minister of Jamaica last April to head the Economic Growth Council. And one of the reasons I accepted was that Jamaica has been through a period last 20 years, 25 years of no growth. So Jamaica was the opposite of being self-satisfied. In fact, we were disgusted at ourselves. And there'll only be change. When you're self-satisfied, there's a lot of inertia not to change.
Yeah.
Conversely, when you're disgusted at yourself, then inertia goes to zero. So that's one of the reasons I accepted it, because we now have an opportunity to the country was ready to come together, and both political parties, through the EGC, had an opportunity to congeal both parties around some national imperatives. Growth, one big one, growth. So the Economic Growth Council, and from a selfish standpoint, I saw it as an opportunity to not only do what I can to deliver growth to the country and transform the country, but also build a model that every democracy will say we need an Economic Growth Council. So over the last year, the Economic Growth Council has met with over 180 stakeholders of the country, and we have distilled and summarized, distilled what we heard into 11 initiatives and 8 initiatives and 111 sub-initiatives, all focused on growth. Then we went on a publicity campaign to make growth a topical conversation on everybody's lips. So we have a tagline, 5 in 4, 5% GDP growth in 4 years. So if you go to Jamaica, you ask, what's 5 in 4? Everybody will tell you. What we did, we summarized what we do, those 8 initiatives and 111 sub-initiatives into a supplement, and we gave it to every Jamaican. So it's like, we saw this as a reset. It's like the Magna Carta of the 10th, 11th century for Jamaica, right? So now, we're now in the process, and we had to have bipartisan agreement. So one of the meetings we had was with the opposition. And I said to the opposition, look, what would make a successful meeting for us to do? 2 things. Number one, if you invited us back every 3 months, so it becomes a dialogue, this is the Economic Growth Council. And secondly, if we can define a buffer zone of initiatives whereby you can fight on either side of the buffer zone, but don't fight on any of these initiatives, then that will make a successful meeting. At the end, the Honorable Portia Simpson said, on both count, because it's now national development. So you see, there are some endemic tribalism that occur, that are present. And I'll give you an example. Every 4 years or 5 years, whenever there's a change in government, the agencies of government, the board of directors for all the agencies have to resign, and new ones brought in. What craziness is that? It's like every 4 years, GE replaces its the entire roster of board members. That doesn't make any sense, because you're saying, implicit what you're saying is, those board members, prior to me, they knew nothing. We know everything. And we have lost all the institutional continuity. So there are some big things that we're trying to achieve, and be a role model in our success, that other countries will say, we need to emulate that format to manage our democracy. Because this two-party system itself isn't working, it's too short-term in its thinking, right? And that tripartite, which is in this case, in the case of Jamaica, is a tripartite, will be a two-party system plus an EGC, which will be the long-term continuity. So that's a generic answer to your questions. You're welcome. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So first of all, thank you for a very inspiring set of opening remarks, especially the 3 points at the front end. My question is really regarding the educational assets in the Caribbean, and especially the higher education assets. Whether or not you think that those are the best that the Caribbean can offer to its young people, and is it really important that the Caribbean do better in terms of its higher education offerings, or are you happy to have the best and brightest go to the United States and Canada for their education?
So, as Ken mentioned, up until a year and a half ago, I was the chairman of Chancellor of Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada. And when I accepted this role, I thought, because I was ignorant, that the real clients of a university are the students. To my surprise, that's not the case. The clients are the professors. So, that was the biggest surprise I got. In these institutions, they also have a lot of inertia. And they're not nimble enough to move with the times. I'll give you an example. Today, we are going through a process of digitalizing the bank. So we have a full-time employee roster of 2,600. And right now, we need 120 software engineers. So we went to the university. And we said we need 120 software engineers. We can't provide it. Went to the universities. Yet still, in 2007, well, every year Microsoft runs a competition. It's called the Imagine Contest. And it's open to every single country, every single university. And they send their best and brightest in terms of software engineers. In 2007, and I think two consecutive, 2007 and I think 2008, but definitely 2007. That contest was not won by a university from Australia, nor India, nor China, nor the United States, nor Canada. It was won by a group of software engineers from the Northern Caribbean University in Mandeville, Jamaica. So it is like, that's not intuitive, right?
No.
Not intuitive. So when I went to the Northern Caribbean University, I could not believe the infrastructure, the facilities that